Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to look at how to configure the user that your container runs as. Yesterday we looked at how to identify what user your container would run as. We looked at inspecting container images, inspecting running containers, and also how to use the who am I command to see what user your container is running as. But today we're going to look at how do you actually configure that user that you want your container to run as. Okay, so right now we're going to go over some things that we went over yesterday a little bit, but mainly the new stuff that I just talked about and some little tips and tricks in between. So if we do podman ps, oops, typed the command wrong, sorry. Podman ps. We see I don't have any running containers. Podman ps-a will show me all containers running or stopped. So these are all my stopped containers. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little tip and trick right now because I have my fonts kind of big on my screen because I want you guys to be able to see it and share with you, okay? If I set the fonts to the default, you see I'll drop it down to the default and they're kind of small. And that's good when I superimpose my picture here over the containers, over the terminal window, but it's not good for you guys to see. So I like to keep my fonts kind of like, let me open up a little bit. I like to keep it like this. Something like this, maybe, okay? But, so you notice the columns wrap. So how do we stop those columns from wrapping? Well, we don't really stop them from wrapping, but we can just choose which columns we actually want to see. So here you see we got the container ID, the image, ports, names. It's kind of wrapping around onto another line. Because here's the container ID of one of them. Oops. And here's the name of the image, and here's the command that runs inside. So what you can do, podman, first you can say podman ps-h for help, or dash help. And that'll display you the help for the ps subcommand. PS is a subcommand of the podman command. So it will show you all the different options you can use with the PS command. And one of those options, if you look down here, it says format. So you can format how you want that output to look. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Also, using the help command is very important. So I'm going to make a whole nother video about how to actually read this, how to read a help options. So anyway, but let's just use that format. So let's say podman, again, podman ps. Okay, so no running containers, but I want to just pull out the fields that I want. So if I do podman ps-a and didn't do that dash format that we talked about. So this is called a Go template, okay? So I want the container ID. So I'm showing you guys how to do it. You can copy what I'm doing and then you can Google a little bit and learn some more. Okay, podman ps-a, so I did something wrong. What did I do? I'm doing this in real time. I don't like to stop and edit my videos, so I figure if something goes wrong, I'll just figure it out in front of you guys. So executing PS, can't evaluate fields, container. So let's see. Well, I like to do everything in a very methodical manner. Dash format, table. I know this part is right. Oh, can't evaluate field container. So apparently, when it says can't evaluate field container, so the field that this field name is wrong. There's no way to get that I know of to get a list of field names that are available to you. There probably is a way. If anybody knows, let me know. But I'm just going to guess that this should be called ID instead of container, or container ID. So let's try that. So the error message is correct. I just have to know how to interpret it. So that's not right. Let's see, container ID. That's not right. So I think it's just ID. So let's try just ID. And you need this little dot in front, by the way. Okay, so it's called ID. That's the name of that field. So the other fields should be just their name in camel case, like image, command, created. So let's try it. So let's put in the other fields. Image, let's see, dot image, and then dot command, okay, and then dot status. So let's just pull those fields back. Okay, so that works pretty good. So to do what we need to do today, this is still a bit wide, so I'm just going to take out image and only use ID, command, and status. Like that. So dash format. All right, now let's get into what we're actually here to talk about, because we're already 5 minutes into the video and we haven't gotten there yet. Yeah, container. So podman, images. So we want to specify the user that an image is going to run as. So to do that, we're going to have to create our own container image through a container file. And we can base it on one of these images we've already downloaded. So, well, let me back up. There's actually two ways to change what user your container runs as. There may be more, but this is the two that I know of. So one is if you do podman run, and again, dash help, and this time we're going to grep for user. We see there's actually a option you can pass in called username or user ID. And I believe this is going to set the username or user ID that your container is going to run as. So let me show you what I mean. So if we do podman run, well, first do podman images so you guys can see the images I have. So here's an Nginx image. Let's see what user it runs as. So podman run --rm, because I want it to delete the container after I'm done with it. I don't want it being left around. Podman run Nginx. I'm specifying Nginx and not the whole name because this is the only Nginx container I have locally. So it knows, podman knows which one to grab. And it's going to grab the one that has the latest tag, since I'm not specifying a tag like latest like that. So I'm just being kind of shorthand with it right now. So podman run rm Nginx, and we say, who am I? So it runs as root, okay? So if we use that argument that we saw, which was dash u, I'm just gonna put my name, Elliot, and let's see. So it says, hey, can't run it as Elliot. It says no matching entries in passwd file, passwd. Now, what passwd file is it talking about? It's talking about the passwd file that's actually in the file system of the container, okay? So some of you guys more experienced with Linux, you kind of already know that the container is running with its own file system. So it says no entries in that passwd file. Well, let's take a look at that passwd file when we run the container, and let's see what options are available to us. So, or what users would be in that passwd file. So we're gonna run, and what are we gonna do? We're passing a command, cat etc passwd, because I think that is readable by anybody, that file. So we're gonna see what users are in there. Okay, so this is the etc passwd file inside the container, okay? Not on my host system, because I'm running a Macintosh, and I don't think I have an etc passwd file on my Mac. So technically, I should be able to use any of these, run as any of these users: nobody, Nginx, backup, www.data. So, you know, let's try it and see. I'm gonna clear my screen. And I'm gonna say podman run, and let's do www.data. So we want to run it as this user, www.data, and we're going to delete the container when we're done, and Nginx, and we're going to say, who am I? So we're going to see if it says www.data. Okay, www.data, so it works. We can run as any user that's configured to run. Yay! Now, what if we want to run, again, I tried to run it as Elliot, and you see that it didn't work, because there's no Elliot in that passwd file. How do we get a username Elliot in that passwd file? We're gonna take a look at that right now. And at the same time, we'll configure our container to run as that user. So what do we need? We need, let me go inside actually let me make a directory called, I don't know, user lab, which is what we're working on right now. So cd into user lab. Okay. So what we need is something called a container file, okay? And a container file is how we're gonna actually make our own image, because we need to create our own image to, if we wanna configure an image to run a container to run automatically as a specific user that's not already baked into the image, we need to create our own image that has that user as part of the etc password file. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Running short on time, so I'm gonna try to move fast on this. So we're gonna VI container or container file, because by default, Podman looks for something called container file, Docker looks for something called Docker file. So I'm specifying this as container file. I don't have to, but I'm specifying this as container file so that when I run my builds command, it'll find this file. So this is how you create a custom container image. So we're going to say from Nginx. Again, we don't technically right now have to put docker.library, you know, like we don't have to do that whole thing. Let me show you guys something cool right now. I know I keep jumping around and segueing, but if you're ever inside a Vim session and you want to pull in a bunch of text from another command, like let's say I'm in this VM file, but I don't know what all my all my image names are that I have downloaded, and I want to see them so I don't have to type docker.io/library/nginx:\latest or whatever. You can run an external command with inside Vim. What you do is you type, make sure you hit escape. You type colon, see colon down here at the bottom. Then you type R and what is that? Pound, not pound, but exclamation mark. And then you type a command from your Linux shell. It will pull in the output inside this Vim file. So if I do podman images like this, and actually we could do -- format, and we can say ID. So this is something I would normally run outside, and it pulls in those image IDs. Now, since I don't know what, I really want the name field. So let's try that again. Colon, R, exclamation mark. This is a cool little trick. That's why I'm bringing it up. I really like it. So you say podman images, and then format. So say podman images format. This video is getting way longer than I had anticipated. Name. So name is not, let's see. Let me jump outside of VM, podman images. Repositories, I think, is what we want. The word, we need repository. Okay, so VI container file. All right, so let's try this again. Exclamation, so R, exclamation mark. And then we say podman images format, and then repository. Repository. Okay, let's try this. Hey, it's not repository. Oh, I typed the wrong command. Sorry. I'm persistent. So we're going to do it again. Podman images format and name. What did I do wrong? I still did something wrong. I said name, and I was supposed to say repository. Sheesh. Oof. You guys are like, that's why your videos go long, because you don't know how to let it go, Elliot. You can't just let it go. Podman images format. At least you're learning something, so don't complain. Repository. I shall not stop until I'm, okay, cool. So what was I trying to get to? I was trying to find this right here. This string is what I was trying to get. Okay, so we say from this. Still have to put in latest. You guys know what I'm gonna do now, right? I'm gonna do that command over just so I can pull in, show you guys how to pull in, how to concatenate two things. So podman images format. Now watch this. I'm gonna say dot repository, and then I'm gonna put not a semicolon, but a colon there, and then I'm gonna say dot tag, because we want to pull in the tag as well. Boom. So now I got that tag on there. All right, so we're saying from that. Cool. Now, getting back to what the whole video is really about. The video is really about creating our own image with the user Elliot inside of it. So now we're gonna use a run statement. This is part of the Docker Podman container language. So run statement is a command that we want to run inside our image. This is a command that we want to be executed when our end user runs the image that we're creating right now. Okay, so we want what is it? User add. Hope that's right. I kind of forget. So user add Elliot, and yeah, let's just leave it at that. It will automatically assign an ID to it. So that's really all we need. We just need a command. Actually, we don't need any command. The only thing that's relevant is having the from, Docker command or whatever. So let's get out of this. Now that container file, the information we have in it, what we want to do is we want to build this into a new image, okay? Because remember, the only images we have right now, Podman images, is these three. So we're going to do Podman build. And right now, we don't have to specify -f in container file. We named it container file because by default, Podman is going to look for something called container file in the directory that we are in right now, okay? But we do have to specify a dot. A dot is our build context. That's the context in which like Docker or Podman looks for any other files that we want to include in our build. They're going to be looking in the directory that we're in the directory that I specify as my build context. Okay, so we're going to build, but we also need to, actually before we put the build, we do need to specify a name of our image. Now, I know the video is getting long, but this is something kind of important to talk about, and it deserves a whole video in and of itself. But when you do Docker build -t, okay, the -t stands for tag, all right, but the documentation, which I'm going to show you in the --help, it says you use -t to name an image and optionally tag it. So in my opinion, it should be called it should be -n for name or something like that. But let's just take a look so you can see what I'm saying. So Docker build. So look here. It says tag name to apply to the built image. So it says tag name. You don't necessarily have to tag it. You could just name it. You're really just naming it. Okay, anyway, enough about all that. Podman, build. Let's give it a name. Let's call it, I don't know, Elliot image. Let's just say that. Let's call it user image. User image. User test image. Okay, cool. In the build context. So it creates that image. So Podman images. And you see here's our user test image. Okay. So we actually created a user named Elliot inside that image. Okay. So let's do something. Let's say Podman run --rm user test image. Who am I? Remember, we We just created a user within the Etsy password file inside the container image. We didn't necessarily tell our container to run as that default user, okay? We'll look at that in a second. But so as you can see, it's still running as root, okay? But we can come back now and we can specify the -u and say Elliot, and we should be able to run it as Elliot because Elliot should be in the password file, which it is. And if we want to actually look at it in the password file, just to prove a point, so run, and then we say cat Etsy password, okay? And you see the user down here, Elliot, okay? So we saw how to create a user inside the container image itself, inside the file system. But now we want to know how to set that user, run that user automatically. Okay, to do that, we have to create another image. Okay, because the first image that we created only created the user. It didn't specify what user to run when the container image is run. Okay, so let's open up the container file again. And the way we do that is we use another specific command in a Docker file or container file rather, and that's called the user command. And it's saying what user to run automatically, okay? So let's get out of that, save it. So now we're gonna say podman build, podman build -t, and we'll call this one Elliot image. Okay, so we'll run this one. So now let's look at the images that we have. Podman images. So now we have an Elliot image and we have a user test image. Remember, the user test image does not automatically run as the user Elliot automatically. You see, it's running as root every time we try to run it. But now this new image we just created, the Elliot image, we specified that user command inside of there. And you see automatically when we run it, it knows to run as the Elliot user that we created. Okay, this video was 22 minutes, way too long because of all my side shenanigans. But hopefully you understand how to set a default user to run. There's a lot more to talk about, little things I touched on that I said we'll come back to, and we will come back to it. But that's enough for now. So, peace.